Can you tell us about some of the stories that you've witnessed and some of the events that you've witnessed?
Obviously, because I'm a researcher, I'm putting myself into the front end of investigation. It's not just a case of reading about it, although that's partly what we do. It's getting out into the front line, so to speak. And the following stories that I'm about to relay to you did actually happen. One time we were in a house in the village of Stirling in central Scotland. Again, we were there because this lady claimed that there were strange things occurring in her house. There were ornaments floating up from the shelves, going back down. There were the usual cold spots, etc. There were voices in the house. She didn't know where they were coming from. It wasn't a TV set. It wasn't from outside. To cut a long story short, she took us up into one of the bedrooms where it was very, very haunted, and a lot of phenomena occurred in this bedroom. Covers being moved up and pillows going down, etc. SPI, we always work with fellow researchers and a really good psychic medium, and the lady we used that night was a lady called Helen Walters. And we always work in darkness. We set up the equipment with the lights on, and then we switch the lights off, because we believe that it creates, it's a good ambience, it helps us and possibly helps spirit, maybe not, to come through. So once we were happy with the cameras, we switched the lights off, and then we're sitting there looking about, listening for any sound. And you've got to be careful, because water pipes and the house heats during the day and cools at evening, and the floorboards can creak, and people can misread signals as if it's spooky, it's a ghost, and it's not, it's just the house cooling down. So we're listening for all the sounds, and then I question, why am I doing this? Nothing ever happens, this is terrible, nothing's happening. And then suddenly the whole room exploded in a myriad of tiny pinpricks of white light. There were thousands of them all over the room, Mark. It was like a kid's November the 5th sparkler. You know those handheld sparklers? Like waving it about. Whoa, what is this? And our psychic, very, very calmly, says, Malcolm, that's just pure psychic energy. I says, I love it, it's wonderful. And then maybe about 14, 20 seconds later, again like the dimmer switch, it just dissipated. And the whole room was engulfed in blackness again. So we rushed to the VCR, press stop, press rewind, press play, fingers crossed. You must have captured this. Surely the video cameras have captured this. Play. Nothing. Absolutely nothing was there. And it's like I said before, even if we did capture something on tape, would anyone believe it? They could say it was manufactured. And this is it's sad, because these things you're trying to get a handle on, you're trying to prove to people. And that was one of many different incidents that's occurred to me over a period of time that I've been involved in this subject. One of the most fascinating series of UFO sightings that I've ever been involved with occurred above the small Scottish town of Bonnybridge, which is situated in Stirlingshire in central Scotland. Now, initially how I came about that was I was listening to a radio broadcast on Central FM. It's a Stirling radio-based station, and they were telling their listeners about a wave of UFO sightings occurring above this small town. So I got in touch with the radio presenter. They were interviewing a chap called Councillor Billy Buchanan, who was dealing with these sightings at the time. So I got in touch with Billy, and Billy welcomed me with open arms. He says, Malcolm, I just don't know what to do here. He says, I just don't believe what's going on here. I was elected to serve this constituency. I was elected to serve these people, be it a broken fence, a broken water main, this, that and that. But they're coming to me with these strange stories of UFOs. What am I going to do? So I got involved with Billy, and we did some initial research, and clearly there was a case to be answered. Some of the sightings in Bonnybridge defied explanation, Mark. These were not your aircraft, your helicopters, etc. These were a case of X-shaped device, lens-shaped device as well. There were lights coming down from the sky. A whole range of different things were being seen in the sky. They were sighted by youngsters, middle-aged people, elderly people, police officers, fire officers. A whole spectrum of different people were seeing all these objects in Scotland. It became so big that in 1994, we held a public meeting in the Falkirk Town Hall, which drew 800 people to hear me talk, a chap called Philip Mantle, and there was a rock band called CE4 from Glasgow who write and perform their own songs in UFOs. They were on stage. It was a wonderful night. 800 was there, and 300 to 400 people were locked out outside, couldn't get in. Dressed in their finery, couldn't get in. You have no idea what was going on in those years. It's absolutely incredible. It soon made not only Scottish television, it made the BBC, it made Yugoslavian, Italian, French television. It went all over the place. It's absolutely incredible. And some of the cases that I've been involved with in Bonnybridge, to me, are the real deal. Are the real deal. And I think there's something very mysterious going on in Bonnybridge. People say, well, why Bonnybridge? You know, what's so amazing about it? And the thing is, all we can safely say is that there are certain areas on this planet which are known as UFO window areas or hotspots, which attract a higher concentration of UFO reports than anywhere else. But why Bonnybridge? We really don't know. The sightings were getting more and more. There were every day there were more and more sightings coming to our attention. It got so bad, Mark, that we decided that we have to get something done about this. We just can't cater for all these sightings ourselves. So we then petitioned Prime Minister John Major, who was in power at that time. He was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. We petitioned him to come up to Bonnybridge and open up a government inquiry and give the people of Scotland an explanation as to what was going on. Sadly, that fell on deaf ears. The statement we got back from Downing Street was, as these objects do not constitute a threat to the defence of the United Kingdom, there will be no government inquiry set up to look at these sightings. We were very annoyed at that, Mark, because, as I said, these sightings were so close, you could have thrown a stone at them. And when Tony Blair came into power, we then did the same. We petitioned Tony Blair. The same title statement. It was not a threat to national security. It is my belief that the governments of this world do indeed know more than they're letting on. Under the Freedom of Information Act passed initially in America some several or more years or so ago, many pre-classified government documents, NSA and a whole range CIA documents clearly showed that they did know what was going on, that they were aware of this. So when myself and my colleagues did some investigation into the British documents in Kew, we saw clearly that the British government has lied to the people of this country for many, many years, that they were aware of what was going on in the UK, and several of the documents we looked at were heavily blacked out, you know, and even then we still don't know what was going on. Thankfully, the French government, Edward Galli, back in the 70s, the French Prime Minister, he put his hand up to the French populace and says, there is something. There is something going on in the skies above France. And how I wish that the American government and the British government would do the same, but I think there's very little chance of that, Mark. But for me personally, here in this day and age, I firmly believe that humankind is interacting with some form of non-human intelligence, something that's probably been with us from time immemorial. Christians say that God made man in his own image. So whose image? The small childlike body, the pear-shaped heads, the black and almond shaped eyes.
So the traditional greys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we have one God or a plethora of gods? You know, it just begs the question.
Malcolm Robinson, thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure, Mark.